right, so we've got a great team here from CAS. Kasha, for those who have never met CAS, what does CAS stand for? Who are you? And tell us a little bit about the background of the organization.
Thank you, Lester. So CAS stands for Coastal Administrative Services. Here at CAS, we are a fiercely independent, multi-generational, third-party administrator, and we've been in business for 25 years. When I say independent, we are, again, independent, privately held. We are not owned by a BUCA, and we do not have private equity or VC money. As an independent TPA, we value flexibility, transparency, and innovation. And we certainly try to strive and go above and beyond to ensure all of our clients receive programs and services to help improve employee benefits, reduce costs, streamline administration, and promote a strong culture of health.
So when we think about a third-party administrator, for some people that are listening, they might not know what the heck that even means. They know they have a health plan, but they might not know what is a TPA and what is it exactly from a service standpoint that you guys do.
So we know that plan administration can be very challenging, from managing the complexities of government mandates, compliance, plan designs, provider relations, vendor management. So it certainly is very important to partner with a TPA that has the insight, resources, and partners. Our TPA, what we do all of the customer service. We help with member materials, and a lot of times a plan sponsor or like a member looks to the CAS and thinks that we are the insurance company, whereas we're really the third-party administrator working on the back end of an unbundled, self-funded healthcare program.
So I want to dig into that word because you just said unbundled. When we think about today, like what most employers do versus what a CAS does, talk to me about the two different parameters of, hey, what happens today and what are you guys able to do?
So if you're comparing like an unbundled TPA to a fully insured type model, when you unbundle, you can work with various vendors. You can have different cost containment solutions, different solution partners that help really drive the goals of the plan sponsor and what they're trying to accomplish. Are they trying to do some sort of like imaging or do steerage and help people promote them to go to like an ACL or do international pharmacy? Whereas if you're in a fully insured arrangement or something that's bundled, you typically have a vendor stack that you have to work with, and you're very limited with solutions and cost containment programs that you can implement.
So Adam, dynamic duo here in this conversation. Introduce yourself and then talk to me about the famous radio station WIFM, right? What's in it for me? Let's start with the plan sponsor.
All right. So Adam Brown, VP of Sales with CAS, been here for 16 years. Like to think I know what I'm doing on my better days and happy to be here with you. So talking about what's in it for a plan sponsor in relation to kind of a carrier model. So carrier model, it's all about supporting what the carrier has put together for their own agenda, more or less. And then they come out with, a rate structure. The employer pays that rate structure, and then it's their PBM, it's, whatever contracts they have with whatever vendors they're plugging in along the way in that bundled service. So when you're going unbundled, you suddenly open up, the world is your oyster to what levers you want to pull and what partnerships you want to add into a healthcare plan. So looking at the most creative and innovative pharmacy solutions, looking at any direct primary care solutions, looking at any telemedicine solutions, I mean, you name it. And that's just, scratching the surface. You can dive deep into strategic, thought processes behind what large claimants are we, looking to curb, and what can we do to make sure that they're receiving the highest quality of care at the lowest possible price. And so when you dive into the unbundled side, you're really going to get into all sorts of strategies and solutions and conversations you're going to have with amazing people along the way.
So that's the employer, the plan sponsor. What about their employees? What does this type of model allow an employee to feel, to experience?
Yeah, there's a couple different angles you can attack that. First and foremost, the financial side for the employee. A lot of the strategies that we're trying to implement are going to benefit the financial side for the member by waiving any out of pocket costs, deductible, co-pays, co-insurance, all of that, because it's so financially advantageous for the employer that they can then offer a tier one benefit strategy where all of the benefits are paid in full, because they went to the highest quality of care, lowest possible price, right time to get it done before anything long term takes place, and it opens up to larger procedures or something like that.
What about the customer service angle? I think about this, some people might look at it and be like, hey, CAS versus big Buka. You got a several billion-dollar company, and then there's a small. What's the advantages you feel from a member aspect, or what do your members tell you in regards to like the warm and fuzzy customer service angle of that?
Yeah, customer service, it's one of the three pillars we like to stand on. So the first one I kind of touched on, cost containment solutions and strategies. Second pillar is going to be member service concierge approach. So we all know the benefits are extremely confusing. We live and breathe it and do it every day, so we understand it. Members, not so much. They only want to use the benefit plan when they're going through something stressful. It's an injury, an illness, some sort of treatment that they are worried about getting healthy and not so much worried about understanding the benefit plan and the program. So part of our services and solutions is the member concierge approach, meaning we have a dedicated team all in-house in our admin office that is there to do the hand holding with the member. If they want us to contact the provider on their behalf, we'll absolutely do that. If they want us to do a warm handoff to a wonderful medical management organization that is going to explain the procedure, what's taking place, and just be an advocate that's in their corner, that is not on the side of the carrier or the side of the quote unquote insurance company, we're going to partner with a medical management vendor that's going to answer all of the members' questions on what's taking place, what they can expect in the future, and really just have that warm and fuzzy feeling as an advocate in their corner through the treatment plan.
Awesome. And kind of thinking of the last constituency, the advisor, the broker community. It's funny. I think about my life now versus my life the first 15 years of my career, where I worked in a big shop. We only placed business with the big carriers. I never had a piece of business with an independent TPA. If you're talking to a broker advisor, what's the value you provide to those brokers and those consultants?
I'd say the top value is going to be myself, my knowledge, Kasha, her knowledge. We do the hand holding. So a lot of broker partners that we work with would back us up in saying that, yeah, we're going to be there from start to finish. Whether, not everyone knows all of the cost containment solutions and strategies. Not everyone knows all of the concierge navigation vendors. Not everyone knows the stop loss relationships. We've been around a long time and running a lot of circles, and we're proud to say that we know some amazing people in this industry. You and your team, a wealth of knowledge. And so partnering with us from start to finish is kind of the most advantageous piece for a consultant, because we're never going to leave you hanging, without being by your side to make sure everything's done from start to finish, buttoned up, from cost containment solutions, strategies, member service, the financial side, stop loss, everything.
So you both have mentioned, cost containment and the good things. I want you to think of a particular group, and I'd like to kind of personify what this looks like, right? We all know and read the chapter in the book of the normal model where, hey, the only triggers I really have in a big carrier program is increasing deductibles and out-of-pockets and taking more out of people's paychecks. I might have a disease management program or something like that, but the reality of it is, in your boutiqueness and your ability to pull in all of these different types of solutions, that brings a different type of program. So Kasha, I'll start with you. Think of a employer that you guys have worked with and maybe give us the case study around that. Hey, what were they doing? What were they trying to solve? What kind of things you implemented with them? What happened to their cost? Just walk me through that whole that whole storyline.
Yes, certainly. So as an independent TPA, we are able to work with different networks as well as different repricers, and we have quite a few groups that do reference-based pricing. So we have a group, last year they moved to CAS. They had been with a BUCA, so a carrier. They went fully reference-based pricing, and within the first year, they saved 31%. So this is a group of about 248 people, and their spend had been 1.8 million, and it was reduced to 1.2 with reference-based pricing. So some of the secret to that success is obviously an independent TPA where they can do reference-based pricing, a great medical management company that helped with some of the steerage and some of the case management on some of the high dollar claimants, a pass-through transparent PBM, as well as international sourcing for pharmacy. And those items made it very advantageous and successful for this group. And obviously they saved a huge amount of money that first year.
So talk to me about the other side. So, I love always, the client, the employer, the plan sponsor is always our client. But I know the three of us have one common DNA, and there is like, what we can do for a member is really what gets us out of bed, right? Like helping an individual person. In that example, client saves a ton of money, but walk me through an example of a member and like how a program like this impacts a member, an individual belly button, a mom, a dad, a sister, a brother. Talk to me about an example there.
So it really depends upon the vendor stack. So different repricers, some have in-house concierge. There's some that we work with where they might use a third party. This specific client, they worked with a repricer where they have a strong partner that's a medical management company, and they do the concierge. So they took a lot of the inbound member calls in regards to providers, access issues, and they did a lot of the education and steerage and helping even with scheduling appointments. So those members felt very, what's the right word here?
Taken care of.
Taken care of, yeah. And they had a resource, and they knew that they, could reach out to someone who had the availability and the steerage that they needed to provide that confidence for that member or for their loved one.
So in that example, I'm a member, I have somebody to call. That's not just like, not to belittle some of the part of the what the TPA does, but in this example, you guys are the conduit of this. But a normal just scenario would be, hey, what's my bill? I'm having trouble with the bill. In this scenario, in this package that you guys, nicely wrap around, I'm a member, I have an issue with accessing healthcare, or I have like a question about my healthcare. This isn't about health insurance, this is about talking healthcare. I can call somebody who's going to walk me through options and things of that nature. And to what we talked about earlier, the result of that is getting help and support, but it's also financially, I might not have had to pay anything as a member.
Yeah, there's different plan designs that obviously we administer, and every group is different. But like if there's a tier 1, where if you're referring a member to like a ACL or some sort of imaging, they can have their patient portion waived. By all means, like, yes, it's very advantageous for a member because there would be no out-of-pocket cost for them.
So when I think about that, average middle America, type of employee, what was the industry of this group that you're talking about?
This is actually retail. It's a grocery store.
Okay, so perfect example, right? Yeah. I'm assuming they're average, I'm working the cash register, I'm bagging things, I'm putting away produce, makes 40, 45, 50,000, maybe 55,000. So if you think about an average deductible and out of pocket being $5,000, let's just play with those two numbers, right? $50,000 and $5,000. That's 10% of somebody's gross take home after they pay their groceries themselves, their mortgage, their car payment, their light bill, their phone bill, their electric bill, all of that stuff. Like, this is life-changing for people. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about one of the, as the leader of the organization, when you hear those stories, what do you think? Like when you hear those stories, you got your own employees and think about like when you think about this, what do you tell another CEO that's running a business when you think about these types of health plans?
Oh, I think, I mean, in order to sustain just the increase of healthcare and everything that's transpiring, looking at a self-funded option, it's essential. I mean, we work with consultants and we, have conversations with plan sponsors all the time where, they're a group of 200 and they're still fully insured and they are not self-funding. And it's, I mean, for us being on the unbundled TPA side, it's pretty shocking that they're not self-funded. I mean, as long as you are, purchasing stop loss and you're making sure that you're working with partners that are, have your best interest, there's no way that you are not any farther ahead if you're not self-funded.
Right. Adam, being that you have a lot of the broker conversations yourself, spinning off of that, what's the obstacle? What's the, hey, I'm a 200 life group. I'm either the advisor or the employer. We're fully insured. You tell me all of this. Why don't they do it? So they hear all of this stuff that they have the opportunities. You have this lever, you have this lever, you have this control, you have this control, you have access to data, you have all of these things. Why don't they do it?
Well, it all starts with buy-in at the top. You gotta, owners of companies, they need to have belief in what they're trying to accomplish, because there are solutions at every turn. Whether it's an access issue, okay, let's talk direct primary care, and then your members have access to immediate care that's already pre-contracted, pre-arranged, and everything. Or if it's, carving out, specialty meds or something like that. Okay, well, let's talk through it. Is it because the members are going to be uncertain or, of the availability of their medications and, they're used to going to the local pharmacy and picking them up and you're paying $10,000 a month for those drugs? Well, guess what? There are some wonderful vendors out there that are going to call the members and have actually a concierge approach to getting their medications delivered to their doorstep at no cost, and you're no longer paying $10,000 a month for those drugs. You're paying $1,500 a month for those drugs. And so I really believe that it's buy-in at the is kind of be the main obstacle of just belief that it does work. There's a whole industry of producers, consultants, brokers, that are getting buy-in and it's working. And so it's just getting that message out that you don't have to be so afraid to pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
when
can I answer part of this too? Yeah. So self-funding is obviously not the easy button either, but I think when you really pull it apart and you see the different programs that you can implement and you have partners that put it together so that it feels like it's a bundled program, it's only advantageous for all parties. And that's where you can start to see and have more transparency and start to see, hey, what does your pharmacy spend? What are the rebates? You can start to answer questions that you would not have had the answers to previously, like in a fully insured type model.
Yeah. And I think for me, thinking of this from a business owner standpoint, right? What other P&L line item that's that high on the list don't we look at every aspect of the bill, right? It's like, do I go to the grocery store, check out, and they tell me it's $180, but all I see is $180, and I don't see the price of the lima beans and the the Gatorade that I bought and the whatever. It's crazy to me when you think about that. And the key word that you said is they can see. Right? Like in that just novel concept of this overall approach, just the ability to be able to see the data is half the battle, at least in making a plan, because if you don't have the data, how do you make a plan?
Mm-hmm.
So, Adam, you probably have a million stories. Why don't you give me a case study, like one of your favorite stories of an employer that moved to you guys and started doing something and what's been the result for them?
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple. One of them's, it's almost a cliche at this point, the crawl, walk, run approach. So a large auto dealership over multiple states, the consultant really believed in some really hands-on, heavy-handed medical management, with navigation, steerage, direct contracts, standalone imaging centers, you name it, just medical management at every turn, guiding members to high quality care, lowest possible price. And with that, the consultant had some pretty aggressive goals to achieve, and took them out of bigger brokerage firm that was just doing the same thing year after year, negotiating with the incumbent carrier to try and get to a low teen or single digit renewal, and wanted to shoot for $1 million savings and that first year to show it, and just implemented a PPO network and heavy-handed medical, and he showed them, the consultant showed them $1 million in savings that first year. Then followed it up, the CFO and the owner had such great buy-in on what the consultant was trying to achieve for them. Then they followed it up with reference-based pricing, and it just, continued to have buy-in from the members and from all the locations and everything. And it just worked out awesome. So that's kind of your standard story of a group going unbundled. But then another case on a recent example, we had a broker call me and just say, hey, I have a $500,000 laser on a group I took self-funded last year, and I have no idea what to do with this now on this renewal. And I said, well, there's solutions for everything. So let's get the group on the phone. And it wasn't a current client of ours. And we just kind of talked different strategies on how to handle different situations as they pop up for different treatment plans and the vendors you can use. And we ended up writing it with a specialty drug carve out that ended up saving the day. And the main point that I wanted to make is I kind of handheld everyone through this process because it was new to the consultant, it was new to the group, they didn't know all these different levers we could pull. And I just wanted to say, hey, the member's going to have a bad day when they find out that this drug is no longer covered by the plan because we're carving out specialty. However, let's maintain, the thought of compassion through this, where we're keeping them fully informed on everything that's taking place and reassuring them over and over in the conversations, whether it's the HR team, whether it's the CAS team, whether it's the specialty drug vendor partner, reassuring them that the only priority is to make sure they're maintaining, receiving that medication and cadence, and they're not going to be left out.
So I want to end this conversation with what I would call kind of my piece of advice, the things you have to do. So I want you to think of, both of you, two different audiences, the employer being an audience and the advisor community being an audience. So Kasha, I'll start with you. If you've got a room full of employers, we know how much healthcare is as far as their P&L budget. We know that we pay as a nation, 18, 20% of our GDP. We know people are filing bankruptcy. We know all of the things. You got a room full of employers. What's the piece of advice you give to employers out there?
Gosh, the piece of advice I would say is obviously you should look at a self-funded option. But then obviously when you're looking at a self-funded option, look at the main players that are going to be, helping with guidance, and really putting that program together, making sure that they understand what the goals are of the employer, so that, Adam mentioned a crawl, walk, run approach. Reference-based pricing is not for every group. Maybe it's a network with some sort of a tier one where, you do have a nurse navigator or you have a medical management company that's helping with steerage. So really asking those questions of the employer, what's the goal for them? How is their employee culture? What are they trying to focus on? Is it, like I said, network with some sort of a cost containment? Are you implementing like a diathrive, or is it international pharmacy, like a script sourcing or a Sharks? Or is it imaging with green imaging? And then just making sure that you're in constant, communication with them in regards to the success and showing them the performance of the plan, as they self-fund. Because the one objective with self-funding is that, over time you start to level your healthcare premium, because in a fully insured scenario, or, if you're typically like with a BUCA and an ASO type model, every year you're going to get an increase. But the idea with self-funding is that, hey, you're going to have some years where they're going to be, good years. You're going to have some savings. You're going to also have, we say 1 in 5 years is a bad year where you're going to have, some larger claims. That's why you have healthcare, obviously, is, for these claims. But the idea is that when you look back over like a 5-year snapshot, you'll really see your premium start to level. And that's really the goal behind self-funding. And that's why, all employers should be looking at it as at least an option.
So you get out of that room, you walk into the next room, and it's a room full of advisors. What's your piece of advice or you must do for the advisors?
Well, when you're working with an independent TPA, there's definitely more oversight just on the plan, the different details, oversight on members. Our team, we really try to offer a very white glove service model approach. So members, when they're calling in and speaking with the CAS customer service representative, they have the confidence that the customer service representative knows the program, knows the plan, can help them if they're having an issue locating a provider, can help them answer questions on, why is this EOB and the invoice that they received from, the provider not aligning. They can help them work on that. They can even reach out to a provider and help with billing. Oftentimes we hear quite often that, a provider is not billing insurance appropriately. So if a member reaches out to our team can take that on and make sure that they communicate to the provider's office, hey, CAS is the insurance, or at least the administrator where you should be submitting the claim to, and we can help resolve those type of items.
Awesome. Adam, same questions for you. You've got a room full of employers. What's your piece of advice or your have-tos for that employer?
I would say just because you're unfamiliar, it's unfamiliar territory, do not be afraid to rip the Band-Aid off. There's, you hire your advisor, your consultant for a reason, and, they're going to partner with a good TPA like CAS, and we're going to walk everyone through it and get everyone comfortable. And we'll make sure that everything possible that could potentially happen. And we're going to, make sure we're by your side and make it familiar territory really quickly for you. So just because you don't know anything about unbundled self-funding now doesn't mean that we can't get you up to speed really quick and get you comfortable with how all the great success stories that come along with it. You don't hear a lot of success stories on a fully insured plan design where we'll get you bragging about your healthcare plan pretty quickly.
Awesome. Same question, room full of advisors.
Advisors, it's actually a very similar answer. We don't expect every advisor to have dove off the deep end and be involved in an unbundled territory. And so we're going to do the handholding from start to finish. All we need is one meeting with a client, and we can, sit across the table and make you sound really good at your job because you brought us in there. And we can give examples of how we've affected so many clients over the years with so many solutions, and how their healthcare plan is now a piece of retention for their members or employees, just because of the quality of care that they're receiving, the personal touch that they're receiving, and the overall spend that for their out-of-pocket that they're avoiding because of the solutions that their employers put in place.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for doing this, and we will talk soon.